Everybody, I'd like to convene the Lake Forest City Council meeting November 5th, 2013. Call it to order, and invocation will be led by Councilman Adam Nick.
Thank you, Mayor Voights. Good evening, everyone. As we gather here tonight to conduct the community's business, the business of those who live here in Lake Forest or own businesses here, may we be granted the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can change, and the wisdom to know the difference. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance will be by Mayor Voights, but I see some Boy Scouts out there, and I would like to ask you guys to step forward, and if you would be so honored to allow us to have you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, we'd be very honored. Come forward. If we can get what troop with. Yeah, it's on. Troop 604 from Lake Forest? Thank you, sir. If you could please lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you, Troop 604. City Attorney, do we have any items to report?
There was no reportable action taken, Mayor. We want to note for the minutes that the council was set to convene at 5:30, but Ms. Mccullough had an excused absence. Mr. Nick and I did not participate in that closed session as it involved Nick versus Lake Forest, and we both have conflicts of interest relating to that matter. But the two council members remaining did receive instruction and gave non-reportable direction to special counsel.
Thank you. Presentations, and ask for.
Agenda item number 3, report by Investment Oversight Reviewer, quarter ending September 30, 2013, submitted by the Director of Finance, City Treasurer.
Good evening, Mayor.
Motion to approve that, no.
Council members, my name is Kathy Lai, and I'm a partner with Macias, Genie, and O'Connell. And I'm pleased to be here this evening to present the results for our quarterly review ending as of September 30th, 2013. So the council and management of the city have engaged us to perform a set of procedures over your investments. As a matter of administration, just examples of those procedures would be to ensure that the city's policy complies with the California Government Code governing over the investments for California, and then also ensuring that your investments as of September 30th, 2013 for this specific quarter complies with not only the city's policy, but as well as the California Government Code. Just additional procedures, just very quickly, we had confirmed all of your investments as of September 30th, 2013 with your custodian, which is Union Bank, without any exception. Everything was fine. We also reviewed your transactions as well. To the extent you had any purchases, we would have reviewed to ensure that the city had followed your own competitive bidding that's required based on your investment policy, of which there were no transactions this given quarter. And then lastly, we confirmed that the city's return on the investments exceeded that of the U.S. Treasury's percentage of return for securities maturing at approximately the same time. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to address any of your specific questions.
No questions? Also? I'll take a motion to accept.
Move to receive and file.
Second that. Thank you so much for that report.
You're welcome. Thank you.
At this time, it brings us to the alternate liaison.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is Jeff Dominic from El Toro High School reporting on November 5th, 2013. The legendary El Toro Canned Food Drive is within view and approaching fast. This year's drive will include fundraisers from both Chipotle and Brizio's, as well as a few others. Cans have already been collected thanks to the help of one of El Toro ASB's own, Kaylee Demersion. Every year for Halloween, her family transforms their house into a haunted mansion. This year, attendees were asked to donate cans, and though it was not a requirement to enter, trick-or-treaters were still willing to give hundreds of cans to a much-needed cause. And those who brought 2 grocery bags full of goods were able to skip to the front of the line for immediate frights. Friday the 25th of October was the highly anticipated rivalry matchup between the El Toro Chargers and the Tribuco Hills Mustangs at the new El Toro Athletic Complex. The game was ruthless and competitive from start to finish, with Tribuco winning the matchup with a field goal in overtime to make the score 24-21 in favor of the Mustangs. Despite the loss, ET held its head high, knowing that they fought hard and played with all their hearts, and the fans were finally excited to be able to call the new complex our house. The morning after the intense game, a few sports showed up to the complex, including both boys and girls cross-country teams, showed up at 8 a.m. to clean the complex and the surrounding streets to avoid any problems with the neighbors. In all, it was a fantastic first game at the El Toro Athletic Complex. After resting this week for their bye week, the ET football team now gears up to face yet another tough opponent with the Mission Viejo Diablos. This game will kick off at 7 p.m. in the new El Toro Athletic Complex, with the gates opening at 5:30. It is the last regular home game of the season and of this year, and it will be a game that you will definitely not want to miss. That's all for tonight. Thank you, and as always, go Chargers.
Especially this week, since they're against Mission Viejo, go Chargers. Thank you so much for that report. At this time, members of the public may address the City Council regarding any items within the subject matter of the City Council. No action may be taken on items not listed on the agenda unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person, with an overall time limit of 30 minutes for public comment portion of the agenda. Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter, whether or not it appears on the agenda, is requested to complete a request a speaker form available at the door to the side. The completed form shall be submitted to our city clerk, Deborah, for forward to the city clerk prior to individual being heard for City Council. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
Marcia Rudolph, followed by Kevin Donahoe.
Good evening, one and all.
Good evening.
I would like everyone in the audience and on the podium to please stand. We're going to sing Happy Birthday to Council Member Mayor Pro Tem Kathy Mccullough.
Please join and rise and let's sing Happy Birthday.
It's not my birthday today. It's tomorrow.
But it's okay.
Well, gee whiz, let's just cut it.
Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kathy. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
One further thing. It is such a pleasure to hear that we now have an authorized and official stadium for our El Toro Chargers. God bless us, and may we always win. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Donahoe, followed by Bob Holtzclaw.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Donahue. I'm a citizen of Lake Forest, and I'm here on behalf of Lieutenant Colonel Jan Dunham, who was the commanding officer of the 1st Law Enforcement Battalion of Camp Pendleton. I have some of that thing that Councilmember Nick was talking about, serenity. We just found out last week that there is no funding to provide transportation for the Marines to come up from Camp Pendleton to the adoption ceremony on the 16th. This comes as a fact. Remember, the continuing resolution was passed on the 17th of October. The Department of Defense lawyers looked at that for a while and promulgated a policy that I found out about last Tuesday, that they will not authorize the expenditure of money for that. So, not to be undaunted, Chris Mccullough, Rocky Hewitt, Tom Cagley, among others, tried to raise money to get the transportation donated. We were unsuccessful. Towards that end, I was speaking to Chris Mccullough today and spoke to Catherine, and what we're going to attempt to do is do some fundraising between now and when we're going to try to reschedule the formal adoption ceremony. But one of the things that the CO wanted me to pass on was that we did not want to accept money directly from the city. So some people said, well, maybe the city will fund some money. But when we spoke with Mr. Dunnick about the adoption, we were adamant that this would not cost the city of Lake Forest any of the city's funds from their treasury. So being unable to secure the funding ourselves, we have no choice but to do this. So this is a matter of sequestration, and the continuing resolution and the policy was just promulgated. The CO apologizes, but we will continue with efforts to support the unit, and we will begin fundraising efforts to allow the formal adoption ceremony to happen at some time in the future. Thank you very much.
Wait, can you take some questions real quick? What is the estimated cost for the buses that needed to be to bring the Marines up for the ceremony?
Mr. Mayor, the estimated cost was between $3,000 to $4,000.
Between $3,000 and $4,000.
Yes, sir.
Well, so have you guys started a fundraising effort as of now?
No.
So you guys have no money counted?
We have no money now, but we the formal decision to not go forward on the 16th was just made this afternoon by the CO. So we will begin. In fact, I was talking to Jim Rosenberg, pardon me, earlier today, and we're going to begin our efforts towards that probably next week.
Well, I'd like to start right now, and I'd like to pledge $200 towards that fund right now, and get the check down to you guys later on. If you leave your address, I'll send it off to you.
We will have to figure out how to do that. So we'll.
This would be a personal check from me as an individual of Lake Forest that very much would love to support the Marines coming up for their ceremony. So it's just to start that off, and so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks.
If I may. Mr. Donahue, I am matching Mr. Boyd's, so put me down too.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Dwight, you might as well weigh in. Give you a 200.
I will just send me an email, and I will definitely, absolutely. I just don't want to give out numbers, so. But I will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, before you leave, one of the things is my husband was on the committee, and one of the things I hope that you don't let go past you that is very admirable. The commander gave his word that he would not ask the city itself for money, that they would manage. At that time, it looked like they were going to get the bus donated. He's been very modest. He says 300 to 400. It could be 5,000, 3 to 4,000, but it could be 5,000. But my suggestion to him today, when I spoke to him, is that Lake Forest is a very proud city. We do a lot of good things, and I feel that we should make it, if we're going to adopt this group, I feel that we should make it where the citizens, the businesses, and the corporates buy in. Because if this is going to be a group that is adopted by this city, then the city should have the opportunity. So I know you got to figure out the details and stuff, because being that my husband's a jarhead, I know y'all got all these little things that you got to do. But I'm joined with my colleagues. We're going to kick it off, and hopefully our citizens, our businesses, and the corporates join in, and they all are willing to give something to help do this. Because if people buy into it, we don't want to be an adopted something and the citizens don't want to. So let's see if the citizens really want the Marines here or not, and let's give them the opportunity, the businesses, corporates, and all, the opportunity to buy in. And I believe that we should put our money where our mouth is. So the four of us putting our money out for $200.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Holtzclaw, followed by Jim Gardner.
Hi, Bob Holtzclaw from Lake Forest, and I've been here since 1977. And last week we had a planning commission meeting, and I spoke there about street sweeping. We had two individuals on the board that were very supportive of my idea of the resuming the street sweeping campaign that we had a while back. And one thing I've noticed on there is that you're worried about the how to ticket people or putting signs up and the costs and everything like this. I've noticed other cities, they don't have the regular police force going around there giving parking tickets and everything else. It's a different division, which is a lot less expensive than what we have right now. Maybe that we could even incorporate this new committee that I think we're going to bring up is for traffic. Maybe we can incorporate that in the idea here of street sweeping, so we can incorporate that, and maybe we can get some good ideas to get this moving again. It was a great idea. Lake Forest 2, their magazine, wrote up, I guess, what I presented there. I saw a little column in there in their magazine of what I presented, and so they're pretty supportive of it also. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Jim Gardner.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. My name is Jim Gardner. I come from Lake Forest. I live in Lake Forest. I come from New York City. I live in Lake Forest. I'd like to match your $200 and send me an email, and I'll be happy to spend $200 on behalf of Chris, who I know is this a big thing for Chris. Anyhow, last month I reported that spending by the city on people and businesses in the city hit an all-time low of 1.8%. 1.8%. Today I'm sad to say that while 1.8% is terrible, this month we'll spend even less, 1.4%. Of the $3.7 million being spent in the Warrant Register you're going to vote on tonight, only $51,000 will stay in the city, and $30,000 of that will go to one business, leaving a mere $21,000 of the $3.7 million to be spread around in a city of 78,000 people and hundreds of businesses. Where is the committee we need to put Lake Forest first? Mr. Nick, thank you for recommending this committee at the last meeting, but apparently your colleagues don't agree. Perhaps they're proud of spending 1.4% of the city's money here at home. Mr. Robinson, thank you for spurring the staff to have a government contracting workshop last month. That was great. Too bad only 16 of the more than 100 participants were from Lake Forest. In fact, sadly, and I know unintentionally, you've helped businesses in other cities take even more of our money than they're taking now. You both, talking to Councilman Nick and Councilman Robinson, you both campaigned on spending more money, more city money at home, and now a year after being elected, we're at an all-time low. What are you guys doing? And where's the traffic committee? That's long overdue. Bob was just talking about it. He'll be here talking about it next year, too. Instead, you're using your valuable time tonight re-looking at the use of electronic devices. Welcome to the 21st century. Thank you very much. 4,300 new homes, 32,000 plus new vehicles are about to start on our streets any day now, and there still is no traffic committee. What are you guys doing? The Village Pond Park, that fiasco continues. Thank you very much, Councilman Robinson, Councilman McCullough, for being at that workshop, so you know how bad that was. Apparently they don't think they did a bad job. They've promoted themselves to appearing before the Parks and Recreation Committee long away from the people in order to give their summary presentation there. If the city is going to meet the enormous challenges that lay ahead for us, we need to put more resources to work solving these problems, whether that's spending, whether that's traffic, whether that's animal welfare. I urge you, once again, to begin utilizing the enormous talents of the people in our city and establish committees that will help us solve these problems. Thank you very much.
Just a quick response regarding spending in the city. When you look at the warrant register, one of the significant expenses we have in this particular register is law enforcement, about $1 million, and that's not something that can be spent inside the city. Another major expense is with respect to the development of the sports park. I believe it's another 7-figure number. So you take those two together, and it drastically changes. That we've always had law enforcement costs, so it's fair apples to apples percentages. If we've got 1.4, 1.8, whatever it was that was suggested, then we'd need to compare that to a previous year. But the sports park is something we're spending a tremendous amount of money on, getting that completed, which I believe the community really wants us to do. I've heard it just about everywhere, and so just to be fair, that's where a bulk of your dollars are going right now. But we do have a focus on trying to make sure that we're spending more with Lake Forest businesses. A lot of that comes down to education. And so I encourage you, any businesses that you all know, tell them that they can do business with the city. We want them to bid on contracts, especially those where we have to take the lowest bidder. We want to make sure that they're bidding and that they're competitive and that they're there. I suggested that earlier this year with respect to our IT contract, and unfortunately we didn't have any Lake Forest companies that even bid on that contract, even though I was trying to encourage it as much as possible. So I encourage you to do that to those businesses that you know. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything further?
We've had no further requests.
With that brings us to the warrant registry. And one of the items on our warrant registry is our paper. The paper actually is bought from Staples, Lake Forest, but billed to Los Angeles. So that's another one that's actually dinged against us. But the fact is we do our job to try to give our business in our community, our restaurants, our business from the city of Lake Forest. So with that brings us to the warrant registry. All matters listed upon the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to remove any items from the consent calendar warrant registry?
Yes, Jim Gardner. He didn't mention which item, but he does want to speak on the warrant register.
And Mayor Pro Tem would like to pull 22 and 46.
On page 22 and page 46.
State on what page? Yeah.
I want to speak on the warrant register.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. My name is Jim Gardner. I still live in Lake Forest. In answer to Mr. Robinson's questions, last year, using the same methodology, we were spending 4 to 5% a month. So that's the answer to your question. We all know these figures are subject to error. For example, as the mayor pointed out, payments to Staples go to their corporate office, not the local office. And just because a business is located in another city doesn't mean the owner or the employees don't live in Lake Forest. On the other hand, just because a business is located in Lake Forest doesn't mean the owner is a resident of Lake Forest. So there is error in both directions. Two things are important. First of all, I have a measure. The city doesn't apparently care they don't have a measure, despite my pleas. Secondly, regardless of the built-in errors which we all recognize, over time we can look at the trends. As I just said, the trend is from 4 and 5% now down to less than 2%. Could we do better? At my homeowner association, where we studied this very issue, we found that we were able to increase our spending, 32% of our spending. We could do that in our city. If we can do that, why can't you do that? Could we do better? I looked at my own spending. When I campaigned in 2010, and Councilman McCullough whooped me, I spent 48% of my money here in Lake Forest. When I campaigned in 2012, Councilman Nick and Robinson whooped me. I spent 77% of my money here in Lake Forest. How did I do that? How does the homeowner association do it? We try. It's as simple as that. We try to do it. And let me give you another example. A few years ago, I was complaining about buying food in another city. Somebody at the city got the message, Now 100% of our food budget is purchased in the city. Thank you very much, staff, for doing that. That's $50,000. That's a lot of money that now stays in the city. 100% of our food budget stays in the city. So that's a start. We need that spending committee. We need people to care and to try to do their best. Times are still tough. We need to spend more of our money in our city on our own people. I don't understand why you don't get that message, and I don't understand why a committee to put more money here in the city is not on the agenda tonight. And I hope to heck I don't come back. It bothers me more than it bothers you that I keep nagging about these things. But I'll be here next time and asking you to do it again. Please. Thank you.
Can I address that very briefly? Thank you.
Miss Kathy.
Sure, of course.
For anybody that may be a little confused about we're not spending the money in the city, make sure that you either go online or get one of the agenda packets over there and look what's on here, and then add up the things that we have to do no matter where they are, like gas, electric, water, stuff like that. Sheriff and fire, all that stuff. And then when you get through, yes, there is, and Jim's talking about all the food that is 100% now. You got to realize that food is just for certain different things. We're not out here buying a whole bunch of food, people. Over the year of the different things that we do have food that's available and stuff. But one of the important things that I think you forget, where you at, Jim? I can't see you. Raise your hand. I don't like to talk to the air. I like to talk to the person.
We're not going to have a discussion.
No, I just want to say, make sure he hear me clearly. One of the things, point of sale also is important, because if I'm not mistaken, don't we get our tax dollars from point of sale? And if it's sold here, we purchase things here in our city, no matter where that bill is going to, we're going to get the tax dollars. Thank you. I backed up. I heard you over there mumbling. I'm stopping.
Just making sure we're
Am I still on topic? That's what he said.
talking about the warrant list per se.
Yeah.
I think so.
Councilman Nick, we're talking about the warrant registry.
Correct. And given that Dr. Gardner commented, I agree. We need to be looking at the trend. However, if you look at this year's numbers versus last year's numbers, what one must do is one must adjust for the expenses that exist this year that did not exist last year, especially when they are six-figure or seven-figure expenses, such as what we are spending on the sports park. Last year or the year before, we were not spending nearly as much, to the tune of about $1 million a month at times. You need to take that out of the equation. If you want to do this year versus last year, you need to take the new seven-figure expense out of the equation and then do your comparison to be factually and financially correct. The second thing is, actually, if you take the sheriff department's payment out, and if you take out for which we have no option, and if you take the sports park, the payment because of the sports park out of the equation, we actually spent 37.4. Let's round it to the nearest digits. 37% last month in the city. I'm an accountant. I'm a CPA. Yes. I'm very, very familiar with numbers. 37%. It's not 1.5 or 2%. It is a lot more promising. So I think we're on the right track. Thank you.
Two agenda items.
Okay, page 22. Move the remainder of the agenda.
No. I want to pull two items. You want me to do that first, and then you can move the whole agenda? Okay. I want an agenda item on the warrant list on page 22, doggy park bags, walk bags. Last time, well, right here. Last time someone was up, I don't remember who it was, but for it to be noted, the reason I'm pulling that, I'd like for it to be noted as a note of record, is that we do buy the doggy bags, and we do fill the dispensers. In fact, just for 11/5, we paid $2,700 in doggy bags and dispenser. So if your doggy dispenser is empty each time, you need to check with your neighbors and see if they're taking the bags out, because we are purchasing and we are filling the bags. So I just wanted to get that. And then here on page 46, Two Wheels, One Planet. That's our chief over there. And I need to know, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to call you, so I got to put you on the spot a little bit. Could you tell us what that's about? I think I know, but I'd like to make sure that I'm accurate.
Mayor and members of the council, that is the firm that we use to adjust the newly purchased bicycles, make sure they're all tightened up, ready to go, because we're using them more. So they need to be calibrated, brakes tightened, and that's what we use them for.
That's what I thought, and somebody may not realize that it was a little trick for us to get those bicycles, because they can go down in the places where the car can't go, and it's very important that we keep those bicycles sharp. So I thought that's what it was, but just wanted to point that out too. Thank you. I'll move the agenda item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That brings us to the consent calendar. Items number 5 through 9. All matters listed on the consent calendar considered routine and will be enacted with one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the council or public staff requests specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to remove any of these items from the consent calendar?
We've had no requests.
Colleagues?
Move the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that brings us to the public hearing. And Clerk, please.
Agenda item 10, Area Plan 2008-01, tentative track maps 17300 and 15353, and subsequent environmental impact report for the Portola Center project. A request for 930 homes, 10,000 square feet of commercial uses, parks, and perimeter trails located at the intersection of Glen Ranch Road and Saddleback Ranch Road in the Portola Hills Plan Community, submitted by Director of Development Services.
At this time, we'll open the public hearing. Staff have a presentation?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, yes, we do. I'll turn it over to Ms. Ackerman.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Voights and members of the City Council. Before you tonight is the Portola Center project. The project includes applications for an area plan, 2 tentative track maps, and a subsequent environmental impact report. The Planning Commission reviewed this item on October 10th, 2013, and it has forwarded a recommendation to the Council for approval of the project. Portola Center is part of the Opportunity Study area, which was historically limited to business park and commercial uses due to the proximity to the nearby military base. The Council rezoned 5 properties for residential land use in 2008 and 2010, and later 2 additional properties in 2013. Portola Center, shown on this graphic here as Parcel 2, has a maximum development potential of 930 units and 10,000 square feet of commercial use. The approximately 200-acre site is located in the northeastern part of the city, south of the existing homes in Portola Hills. Portola Center is bisected by Glen Ranch Road and Saddleback Ranch Road, creating 3 distinctive planning areas. And in the documents, we call these the southern, the northeastern, and the northwestern areas. Portola Center's project land use plan consists of single-family home development on the north half to be consistent with the existing single-family homes in Portola Hills, as well as 2 private neighborhood parks. The land use plan for the south side includes a 5-acre net community park, a central park, a perimeter trail, and a variety of housing types. The Portola Center project vision includes a series of pedestrian and trail linkages that tie the proposed residential development and the parks together. The trail connections also allow residents to access nearby regional trails, such as the Aliso Creek Bikeway, the Aliso Serrano Hiking Trail, and trails within Whiting Ranch. A pedestrian connection is provided to Malabar Road at the southern end of the site, but there is no direct vehicular access at Malabar location. Just quickly, the circulation plan. Project access to the neighborhoods is from 3 new gated entries. One entry from Saddleback Ranch Road leads to the northwest planning area. The extension of Saddleback Ranch Road south of its present terminus at Glen Ranch Road will provide access to the southern planning area. And finally, a new signalized intersection on Glen Ranch Road will provide a second access to both the south and the northeast planning area. Community entries will be installed to provide a sense of arrival and identity to each of the areas. Monuments along Glen Ranch Road will provide identification for the Portola Hills area as a whole, and each planning area will have smaller scale monuments. We have just a few illustrations here. This is an example from the area plan showing community monumentation concept that will identify the north side of the community as part of Portola Hills. The south planning area is proposed to have its own unique name. This is some additional renderings of the project entry at Glen Ranch Road, Saddleback Ranch Road, which we worked with the community at a great deal in the last year and a half over the preferred access into this new community. Of note, the area plan includes a conceptual of a 5-acre, that's a net acre, community park, which is located on the south side of Glen Ranch Road. The park will be graded and dedicated to the city by the applicant, along with a park improvement fee of approximately $2.4 million for improvement of the park, and the city will undergo a community park planning process to determine the exact features of this park. The requirements for the size of the on-site parks and the contribution to the city's sports park were set forth in the Portola Center Development Agreement, which was approved by the Council in 2008. A few examples here of the character of the neighborhood parks. The northwest and the northeast planning areas will each have private, approximately half-acre parks near the entrance to each of those areas, and each park will have amenities such as playfields, tot lots, and other areas. On the south side, a 1.8-acre central park is located within this area. This will be a private park, and it will also contain a recreation center and a pool area. The area plan also includes a landscape palette that can be categorized as California-friendly or naturalized. The palette is low maintenance and suitable to the Southern California climate. Along the exterior slopes and streetscapes for the project, the landscaping will be in this natural state, and on the interior neighborhoods, a more Mediterranean influence is proposed. Any areas serving as fuel modification will also have to have their plant palettes approved by OCFA. This design of the landscape was worked out in conjunction with the existing residents in Portola Hills, as this being their preferred style of development and the character of the community that they wanted to have. The developer will have to submit a detailed master landscape plan for review and approval by the Planning Commission, and this plan will specify in greater detail the actual plant species and the number and the spacing. So we're at a conceptual level here at the area plan with more detail to follow. The area plan also includes some additional documents. Important is the phasing and financing plan that describes the construction of the public facilities and the infrastructure that's associated with the project. This is including grading and maintenance responsibilities. The area plan also includes an affordable housing implementation plan similar to the Shea and the other projects that we've reviewed. The Portola Center proposes up to 18 second units, which will be integrated into the main homes on the north side to serve as affordable housing, as well as 57 affordable apartments on the south side of the project. The AHIP contains requirements to assure that affordable housing is constructed in a timely manner. We have one slide here on public participation, which was so key in this project. There have been numerous public meetings throughout the course of the Portola Center project evaluation process. The project included some significant changes as a result of the public input. These changes resulted in a better project that addressed the concerns of the existing residents. The issues included moving the project entries for the majority of the project to Glen Ranch Road, establishing maximum limits for the height of the retaining walls, the retention of views for the existing homes up on Malabar, and the refinement of the landscape palette to be one that would transition smoothly into the image of existing Portola Hills. As part of the planning process, conditions of approval have been included to minimize disturbance to residents as well as disruption to traffic. These include regulations on the grading operations, such as dust control, vehicle idling, and traffic management control. Also, geotechnical monitoring to ensure grading stability, the designation of maintenance responsibilities up front, and the timing of infrastructure to serve new development. So in your staff report, there are two sets of conditions of approval, one that goes with each of the two tentative maps. So they're quite lengthy, but they spell out just a wide range of conditions of approval. The Planning Commission, as I mentioned, reviewed the item on October 10th and recommended approval of the project to the City Council. We've included 4 draft resolutions in the Council's packet that would need to be adopted this evening in order to approve the project. That concludes staff's presentation, and I wanted to mention that we have many staff members here tonight that have been involved with the project. Some of the staff members have had up to 10 years of involvement in this project. We actually started this in 2004. So it's certainly been a long process. I'd like to especially recognize from Development Services, Carrie Ty, Ron Santos, Cheryl Kuta, and Peggy Samantha, who have worked on just thousands of hours on this project. Carrie was going to do the presentation tonight. She lost her voice, and so she's going to help us answer questions. But she's done a fantastic job. And also, I think the whole area plan process, the involvement from Public Works, Management Services, the City Attorney's Office, the City Manager's Office, Finance, and Community Services, which all had significant roles in the project. And that's really the essence of an area plan, to address all of the issues and get it planned for up front. That concludes staff's presentation, and our applicant is here, and I believe they have a short presentation as well.
Yes, at this time, we would like to hear, and if you, the applicant, would like to come and speak to us and tell us something. And as you're praising the staff, I also, too, would like to praise the staff, Tom Wheeler and Gail Ackerman, for their community outreach and actually solving problems in Portola Hills, and having some traffic community forums, and that speaker that we had for your traffic was just outstanding. Really mitigated the concerns that some of the people up in Portola Hills had about the project, and you guys did a great job in bringing the highlights of what you guys were going to do to make that just a smooth transition with those new housing up there. Thank you so much. And with that, thank you. And who are you?
Thank you. My name is Mass. I work for the property owners, Baldwin & Sons. Honorable Mayor, City Council, Mr. City Manager, and staff. We also have a team here this evening that's been working on this throughout this process. I started with the project in June of 2009, so I don't have the full 10 years. I'm only 4.5 years old. I do have, this is just a pointer, so I'm just going to let the sheriff know I'm going to be pointing over the top of him here.
Safe move. Very safe.
I'm harmless, I really am.
That was good. He's got assistants in the back.
Yeah, he does. And also, I want to thank Carrie. I think probably she lost her voice. I'm imagining she might have been cheering on the local football team, so perhaps that's the explanation for her loss of voice tonight.
They need it back by this Friday.
I think so. There are some redundancy in the exhibits. I will go over those very quickly. This is our project team. They're here to answer any specific questions you may have. As you know, this project, who's going to carry on the advance? Oh, thank you. Again, you've seen this exhibit. This shows the neighborhood parks and trail system and how the communities link together. I would point out that one of the elements is actually an enhanced walkway as you come down Saddleback Ranch. On the east side of Saddleback Ranch, crossing Glen Ranch, there's a loop street that runs through the middle of the project, and then around the HOA, if you will, homeowners facility here, and then back out. So there is actually a loop street and an enhanced sidewalk that we continue through the entire project. This is the public trail that runs along the outside. This was added later in the process to ensure that the public did have some access when we elected to gate the community to vehicular traffic. Next, please. There are a number of project benefits. I know that you are familiar with many of them as far as our contribution to the city facility fee. We have previously advanced almost $750,000 to assist the design of the current sports parks under construction. We talked about the 5-acre community park. Upon approval of this project, we will advance design fees for that as well. We met with the Planning Commission. We want that process to start so it is ready to go as our project develops. We have a contribution to modernize Portola Hills Elementary School, a number of mitigation fees to the elementary school, and of course significant transportation impact fees for the project. We've also recently agreed to make a voluntary contribution for off-site improvements to Saddleback Ranch Road. One of the key issues that came up was the existing condition, and we spent a lot of time with the community, not only our office, but the city staff, and then collectively on the traffic workshops. And it was very clear that there are problems that exist in the community today, and we want to be part of that solution. So we have agreed to contribute the design costs of almost $150,000, as well as a contribution to a capital improvement program fund of $500,000 for those improvements as that design proceeds and the community determines what is best to improve that road and change the character of Saddleback Ranch Road. I mentioned the 1.5 miles of new public trail use in the parks. We're also improving the existing trail along Glen Ranch Road. As you know, today there's a little bit of fencing, and it's actually an equestrian trail, but it's just one trail. We'll be separating that trail so any horses and the equestrians will be separated from the public, who might be joggers and things like that, so that'll be a much safer condition for them. And I mentioned in the exhibit the enhanced walkway that connects to the existing Portola Hills neighborhood. I want to emphasize we are a part of Portola Hills. Although our project is named Portola Center, we recognize that we're a part of that community, and our design recognizes that as far as the compatibility with that community and providing access and to provide benefits to the community. Next. We had a very extensive community input process that we started in June 2009 when I came on board. We started with meetings that we hosted on our own to get to know the community. It had been, at that time, almost 2 years since the OSA was approved, and we wanted to get back to the community on the specific project design. Of course, the environmental process has its own required meetings, the scoping meeting. We did a comprehensive tour that, I have to refresh my memory, but at least 50 members, I think, of the public attended with the Planning Commission, where we actually were on the site, and then we came back to the Planning Commission for a meeting. The traffic workshops, I think some of you may have attended. Yeah. As you know, those are very extensive, and I really want to thank, who I don't think is here tonight, but Joe Faust was fantastic. Yes. He really, I think, I want to say he's born again as far as how he looks at streets, and as he said, spent much of his career making them bigger, and now he's trying to put them on a diet. And I think a lot of us are probably thinking about that diet thing. But I think it's a great metaphor for how, as we progress in life, we find out what are the healthiest things for us. The Planning Commission also held workshops on the area plan itself, and we did meet with the Park and Rec Commission regarding the park design and specifically talking about the public park, the 5-acre community park that is on site that will be available to the entire community. And then we also hosted a number of meetings and met, in people's living rooms. We met at HOA facilities directly with individual property owners and homeowners, as well as the various HOAs, to talk about the project and their concerns as to whether it might be a fence that's next door to them, or the landscape palette, or how the project might affect their particular property. These were the key items that were addressed by staff. Project access, I think we've gone over that and don't need to cover too much more about what we have today. I think changing the Saddleback Ranch Road character was really key to the community. It was an existing problem, and I think we have contributed to make that better. Our compatibility with Portola Hills, with the single family north of Glen Ranch and the more diverse housing type on the south. And then community identification to help the community identify itself with a series of elements such as a signature oak tree and signage that will make us a part of Portola Hills itself. The circulation plan, you've already seen, that was in the staff exhibit. Just quickly on the Saddleback Ranch Road, the traffic calming and circulation improvements, that design we're funding, the voluntary contribution. And then also we are landscaping our section of the project.
That was not originally called for. Glen Ranch is required to have a landscape median put in. We'll be doing Saddleback. That was an addition that we added to the project. This is a photo simulation. This would be northbound on Saddleback Ranch Road. You can see how that landscaping would look. The entryway, you see the free right turn that will take you westbound on Glen Ranch, and then a little over to the left here would be where that signature oak tree would be planted. Compatibility issue is just really trying to recognize Portola Hills is primarily made up of large single-family homes. There is multifamily up there as well. We mimicked that as we worked our way south from the project. We also worked with one of the neighboring multifamily projects on an open view sound wall. They're doing some improvements to their property on the northeast parcel, and we will be replacing the wall that they have up there now. They currently have a wrought iron fence, and we'll be replacing that. And that'll be on our property, part of our project, and we'll maintain that. Community identification. The discussion of the landscape palettes was really a productive one, in my opinion. The Portola Hills community as a whole right now, and some of the homeowners associations, are looking at making some changes on their own. And we were able to bring out our professionals and help them understand some of the opportunities that existed in the community. When we say native, we are looking at plants that also work in our environment that are not invasive. So I think it was a very good conversation of the types of plant palette, not only that we were proposing, but that the city is using for its own street trees and the like. And that theme will be on Glen Ranch and on Saddleback Ranch Road. It'll give a little bit of a consistency with what the existing community is looking to do, and we're looking at maintaining more of a rural and natural materials that draw upon the local area rather than some of the materials that were used in the past. This is an exhibit you saw, but you can see the Coast Live oak tree. We're using certain types of oak trees depending on their location. In the right-of-way, you don't want to have a tree that grows out and that could impede vehicles. These other trees are trees that are currently used by the city arborist would recommend. So we want to stay within the tree palette that the city is used to, and that's been successful at the end of the day. Next, please. And then this is actually looking at the corners. You're making the turn up into the Portola Hills community, the main specimen tree, or the live oak, as well as the landscaping and some entry trellises to enhance that experience. This is an example of using natural materials. We're the founding developer of Otay Ranch in Chula Vista, and you can see the use of rock and the type of monumentation. It's not ostentatious. That was some of the comments that we heard in our first round, that we looked, no disparaging comments to Irvine, but we looked too much like Irvine with some of our proposals. So we really scaled that back to be something that was more in tune with the community and the location that we're in, the context that we're working with. And that is all we have. So we want to thank you for your consideration tonight, thank the efforts of staff, and definitely thank the participation of the community, many of who have been working with us over the past 4 years. And we're available for any questions that you need.
I'd like to first off thank you for your outreach into the community and participating with the traffic study and actually helping to mitigate some of the traffic problems that we have and speeding problems that we have on Saddleback. So thank you for your participation in that. I think it's going to be a good project. So, Council, do we have any questions?
Yeah, I've made it very clear I'm a very strong advocate of private property rights, and so when I see a new development come in, there's the rights to that developer or who's trying to redevelop or develop something new, and then there's the rights of those who are already there, and that's very important. I really appreciate the outreach that you made to the community up there. I know the community appreciates that. The only question that I have, and just clarification, there was a mention of $2.9 million to Portola Elementary. Is that going specifically to elementary school, or is that going to the school district, and with the expectation they'll earmark it to the elementary school?
There was a study that was done specific to Portola Hills Elementary School, and those funds are meant to be spent based upon that study. I think it's up to the community to hold the school district accountable for how those funds will be invested back into Portola Hills Elementary.
That's what I thought, and I just wanted to make sure that we clarified that. I expect that staff will make sure that that happens. I personally will work on that. I know that many members of the community will be doing that who are much more involved in that particular issue even than I am, but I just want to make sure that was clarified. So those of you in the community, we want to make sure that those dollars actually stay at Portola Elementary and don't get spent somewhere else. It's very important. Thanks.
just want to quickly say thank you for reaching out to the community. Commendable.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we appreciate their input, and I agree with staff, and I think you may hear from some members of the community it did make it a better project. I think at the end of the day, our investment in our property will benefit the entire community.
Yes, we thank you indeed.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, does that bring us to the public? Do we have
We'll go to the public first.
Yeah. The public comments? Thank you.
We've received on speaker request forms from 10 residents. They don't wish to speak, but they are all in favor of the project, and they are all Lake Forest, Portola Hills, Canyon residents or property owners. So they wanted that entered into the record. There are 10 individual requests.
Thank you. So that's the only public comments we had. Okay.
Correct.
So I'd like to close the public comment portion of this and bring it back to city comments and questions. Do we have any? No. Okay.
I have several things I'd like to throw out. Of course. Just a little tweaking. On the affordable housing, are you going to have a covenant on that? That it remains affordable?
Yes, I believe there's a requirement. I'm trying to recall the number of years, if it's 50 or 55 years. Staff, 30.
Not under 30. 30 or more.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you know why I asked you that. Because with that covenant, we get IRENA credits for that.
Correct.
So without the covenant, you can switch and not be affordable at any time. So I'm trying to think, in the future.
Understood.
Okay. The other thing, which I didn't see in here, is there any solar involved in any of these homes?
Our typical approach right now is to make sure that all the homes are what we call plumbed for photovoltaic for the roofs. And we will be including the ability to install a charging station, so this circuitry is all there. The reason we don't install in the garage is because there's some proprietary equipment for certain vehicles. So we're going to make those available as part of the building permit process. The photovoltaic, we have looked at offering that as an option to the home buyer, and I think we're hopeful that the prices will become very competitive as far as a buyer wanting to invest in that as part of their purchase of the home.
Yeah, I'm asking you because we're looking at these as being in the modern time and future, and as you know, Edison has lost the one plant here in San Clemente, and there is a statewide investigation, and they may lose a couple of others, and so that means electricity is going to go even higher. As for all the downtime we've already had, and it's going to be spread back to the ratepayers, even though it wasn't supposed to. So, being that Lake Forest is a progressive city, and we like to be ahead, I'm just checking with developers and see if they're including the possibility of converting over to solar in case, So
we've had a number of conversations with home buyers. What we do is make sure that all our appliances are Energy Star and energy efficient. Our buildings are very efficient from that standpoint. We're looking now at on-demand for the water heater systems, which saves water and saves energy. So there's a number of things that we're now becoming more regularly found. It's becoming the norm now in homes.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because that's going to start being a demand soon, and I know you build a lot of places. The other thing is, on this project, I know some of the staff has been involved a long time, but I can't even think of how many years ago, and I think it was before 10 years ago, former Mayor Marcia Rudolph and I, we went out to the project before you got it in paper, and looked over it, and we made some suggestions then, and we had worked with your company for years with the county before we all were cities and stuff, and I wanted to personally thank you, and I'm quite sure former Mayor Rudolph would like to thank you too for incorporating our suggestions into your project, because some of the things you did mitigate that we were concerned about for the people that already live there. But I do have a few things that I want to ask you about tweaking, and that is on your map here. You have this is my one complaint: no page number. Okay, but it's under. Let me tell you where it's at. Too bad we don't see. This is why you need to be able to bring this stuff on. It's in the noise section 5.8.
Okay, so you're looking at the environmental impact.
I'm looking at that, and I just want to ask a little something about this. I got a couple of things I want to ask you about for my curiosity to make sure that I'm on track before I give my vote. I like to make sure I'm accurate. On here, you have the yellow as on all of these. You have where the single-family homes are in yellow, and you got them spread out real nicely. And you got the multifamily homes in red. You only have one little section for multifamily. And then the little tiny park over here in green. And then you have the mixed use in red. And you have it over here, okay? Now, what I would like you to do is walk with me on the next page, where when you put in your noise barrier heights and locations to mitigate the noise. The noise is mitigations. You don't have any over here at the multifamilies. Now, I don't know, I may be wrong, but I had 5 kids, and 4 of them was boys. And it seemed like you better get some kind of mitigation for them, because their noise is going to, around all the single-family homes, you have it mitigated really well. But where the multifamilies and the mix, you don't have any sound barriers. And if I didn't find the, I was looking in here trying to get the distance, the setbacks on here. If you look at this one little corner on this, on the multifamily and the mixed family, you're mitigating here on the single homes, and on this corner, directly across to your corner that has the largest setback on the single family, the mixed family and the multifamily, they're closer to this major thoroughroad here than the single family homes that here on your map you have mitigation for.
So I'm going to give you a general answer. I'm going to ask the preparers of the environmental impact report. The noise source in this particular map is primarily traffic.
Yeah.
So as that study, we do modeling for that and make a determination as to the distance and the sounds. There are a number of factors that affect that as far as the grades and proximity and distance. All of those come into play. Also the volume of traffic. As we know, much more traffic goes north on Saddleback Ranch Road and west on Glen Ranch. Not as much traffic goes east on Glen Ranch. I'm going to leave it at that and ask the EIR preparer who worked on the noise.
Was Voss involved in this? Voss was what?
I'll have
the person that was involved in the traffic. Okay, I know it goes according to traffic, but if he's going to come up, do he have the maps? If
I have it right
somebody
here.
lend it to
Yes,
him.
I have it.
Okay, if you bring those 2 maps up so you can follow with me, because your name for the record.
Eddie Torres with RBF Consulting. We prepared the environmental impact report.
Okay, Eddie, would you walk with me through this, because I need to have a comfortability with it.
Sure, no problem.
Both of
She's on Glen Ranch Road.
Glen Ranch
And Saddleback.
Hold on. Glen Ranch Road runs through the project, and then you got Saddleback. But now, if you look right here on if you're looking at it, look right here on the right-hand side, where you see the red dot, and then the 2, 4, 5 orange. I guess that's supposed to be orange. A man must have came up with that.
I think your concern is about the orange dots,
Now,
and why there's
look-
not a wall right there in front of
Hold on.
those dots.
Nope, that's not exactly. Follow me. Don't go ahead of me. You're going to miss it. Then I got to ask it all over again. If you look in here, and you got 2 of them. I didn't get this one back in there. I was in a hurry. If you look at it, you don't have, I didn't find the distance. See where you're here at this intersection. Look at the top portion. You're at the intersection. See all the yellow dots. We're just the right hand side if you're looking down at your paper. you will see that amount of setback there on that corner. Now go across the street where the multi-use is, look at the amount, which is a lesser amount. They're more so on the streets. They're butting almost directly up against the street. It looks like a small amount. I didn't see the footage on that, but on the side of the single family, when you go to the next page, there's mitigation. The reason I'm calling that a setback, because your mitigation line starts closer to the home's boundaries, where on this, so you have more mitigation line here. Okay. You have, I'm calling this setback because your mitigation line is starting here. Okay. And over here, if you look, you will see, look at your proposed setback over here, right over here. It is sitting on right butting up against the street, and you have no mitigation. Whether the traffic is going east, west, north, or south, why would you not have, I'm asking, why would you not have a mitigation here when you have a mitigation here and they have a setback? I told you I was going to ask. So stop twisting your face up.
Okay.
These are things that I have to ask.
Of course.
Because I did this stuff for the county for years. And when you're doing it in my city, I definitely got to ask and be even more conscientious than I was for the county. Okay? So now, that's what I'm asking you. You're responsible for the mitigation and the traffic. Then could you answer that for me so I can get a comfort zone?
Sure.
Because you did in your maps and in your paperwork, I didn't see anything in there telling me what the footage was or anything, the decimals or anything on here. But I mean, just with the blank eye, without the numbers, look at the setback here with your mitigation line starting all the way back here. Look at the setback over here on your single families. And then over here, the multifamilies is sitting on their line of property is sitting almost on the street. That's a major thorough street. Whether it's less traffic on that side of the street or not, those multifamilies, the kids can be as loud as they want to be. Then they don't have, it appears to me to not have a just amount of mitigation, noise mitigation on by those multifamilies and the mixed family. Am I incorrect? If I am, help me to understand it.
Well, I'd like to walk you through first the exhibit with the dots, and then that would carry forward the discussion with the walls. If you look at the exhibit with the dots, the way that the noise model is built is it's built with a conceptual grading plan, and that's subject to change upon the final design, so that's why the mitigation is set up, that it's going to be verified upon the final design of the project. But the way that the noise model is built, it takes into account 3 dimensions, height, setback, traffic, and looks at the conceptual grading. If you look at the yellow dots on the plan, they're set up within the lot of the homes. There's a setback between those, and that's a topography of the slopes between the homes and the roadways. If you look at the dots on the multifamily, the orange dot, the multifamily is modeled differently than the single-family homes. Single-family homes based upon the city's noise criteria based upon outdoor and indoor noise exposure. And the multifamily is built more upon the indoor noise exposure because they don't have rear yards or front yards. So what the orange dots represent, without the final design of what the multifamily is going to be, is a theoretical placement of where the units fronting the road are going to be at. So that's why you see going to the next exhibit with the walls, and you see the lines, and those lines, the way to mitigate the noise is to place the barrier close to the source or close to the receptor. And with the noise barriers, you want to place the walls as close to the receiver as possible, so that way you block the line of sight towards the vehicles. So that's why you see the walls at varying placements from the roadway center line, is that you want to block the line of sight towards the vehicles. The noise is not mitigated for the multifamily with a wall because you don't have the outdoor noise exposure, so that's why we bifurcated the mitigation measures for noise into two different mitigation measures. We have a mitigation measure for outdoor and indoor noise exposure, which is mitigation measure N-2. And because we have a conceptual grading plan, we want to make sure that the mitigation is going to be set based upon the final grading plan and the setback of the homes. So that's why we have the mitigation, to have a final acoustical analysis to verify those conditions, the wall heights, the placements, and the footings. And we also have a mitigation measure for the multifamily homes, which is N-3, to ensure that the interior noise levels are mitigated below the city's interior noise standards.
I'm not through.
And as Ms. Tai pointed, above all that, there's privacy walls along those areas as well.
What areas is those areas?
If you
Defined
this is within Exhibit 7-11 of the area plan, and that's right there on the screen facing you. And as you can see, the yellow or the red privacy walls.
Okay, so you're going to have privacy walls.
Is that the orange privacy wall?
No.
Yeah.
That little orange there. Which way are the front of those houses going to be facing? The multifamily? Is it going to be facing toward is it going to be the side or the front facing toward the street?
On that side, our typical design, that would be the back of the house. You would access
The back of the house?
the back of the structure, the multifamily structure. We want to orient the front doors to the interior of the project, where, excuse me, to any open space or walkways or things like that. So that would be the preferred design on that.
Now, I know that what I'm asking you may sound a little strange, but I've done this for years. Papa knows. And my thing is, when the county decided to change the 101 highway to this freeway out here that they steady taking, they've taken and kept taking, and they're getting ready to put 2 more lanes out there now. They never considered the sound for even the single-family homes, even with the backs to them. Which way that house is or that multi-house is facing that street does make a difference on how much noise they get, and as well as the installation and the wall. That's why I asked which way it's facing, because you know and I know that's very important, right? So it does have a better opportunity with the backs facing it, because when you look at it, the line sight here on the multifamily is right down here on this one end, is just butting right up against that street. You don't have the setback there. I just want to know your little plan there, because you know when somebody come later after families in there, and they come later complaining about that, then I've got to have an answer. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you. I got some more stuff. Okay. I'm probably through with you. Who's in charge of the greenhouse gas?
That's
Is that
me
you?
as well.
Oh, so you're just a man of just all trade, right? Good. Okay. The thing I'm concerned about on that, you see, you got a lot of red in that area, so you be ready, okay? The thing I'm concerned about that is that, let me get my little notes here. On your units, you had the mission. I'm looking at, you seem like you had a real good regional construction and mission here. Looking at your chart, no page. Oh, staff, please make sure these people have a page. Under, let me see what this is under so I can get you on the same page here. Alternation to, no, that's not it.
The page before
yes, it is.
8.0.
Yes, 7.1, it's 720. Okay, 720. Got it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Is this a table you're looking at?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's the same you got? You don't have it? He's got it.
I'm there.
Okay. Now, it says the, see your little things here. You only had one indicator, an impact that is greater than the proposed project environmental and fair. Now, all the rest seem to be in line real good. What happened on that one there under reduced grading, reduced intensity, alternations, alternative? What happened there? Because you know the air quality, they're usually pretty thorough, and I was just wondering what happened there, why it didn't fly through. What was that little ding for? Anybody know what that ding was for? See right here on your chart?
Yes, this one. With that alternative, we had looked at various ways to mitigate the emissions, and as you know, the unavoidables were related to air quality and greenhouse gas emissions. And under that scenario, we had to develop a set of viable alternatives that could support the objectives of the project to the extent feasible and look at ways to minimize the significant effects. This layout, unfortunately, increased the amount of grading for the site, and as such, increased the amount of emissions for regional and localized emissions. And that's basically just due to the grading, the difference in grading from the proposed.
So it increased the emissions, huh?
Yes.
Well, you know, we're under a lot of restrictions now with our greenhouse gas. I don't want my city to get dinged or the region to get dinged, so that's why I was really concerned about that, because they just asked us to lower the emissions even more.
Right.
We were doing real good in this region, and now they're requiring us to lower it even more. So it's very vital that each city be very conscientious about the emissions and carbs and all that stuff, because that does hurt us when we don't get that lowered. I see you did pretty good on all the others, and you just had that one ding. I was just curious on why that one.
It was basically due to the difference in construction aspects of the project, but the project itself does have a pretty robust program to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and that's carried forth with the mitigation measure as well to make it enforceable.
I wanted to compliment you on what a good job you did on that. That's why I was wondering, out of all, you only got that one ding. I've seen some that has a lot more on the regional level. They're really cutting back, so I appreciate that. Let me see if I had anything else for you over here on the greenhouse gas. I just wish they would have numbered these things differently. Let's see, did I get you on this? Now, who suggested to put this the sound thing in here?
That's something we've done in past practice, yes. Just to
that was good.
Thank you.
That was really good. I like that. It pops out, puts it in place. An amateur could even just get that. But all in all, I think you folded in all the suggestions that I could think of that myself or our former mayor had mentioned, and you got a few little extras in there that I really appreciate. I still will be watching the project closely, that it gets real comfy in the zone, and we can have where the new and the old lives happily ever after together. But very good project. It came out even a lot better than I thought. I didn't really, at the time I had some doubts about when it was first described to us how you were going to do it, but you did pretty good on that. I would have liked for that the little park to be just a little bit bigger, but I won't be greedy. I'll be happy because we got the sports park there, so I won't push that one. But you did pretty good. But I did need those. And on your planting, I gave a suggestion of that. I coined with the county that we started many years ago, the tier planting for when you screening stuff, instead of putting up so many fences and gates and stuff. And I see you got quite a bit of planting in there too, so I like that. Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to follow up on an earlier comment you made. I know former Mayor Rudolph was very involved, in fact, prior to annexation.
Yeah, way before annexation.
I heard a number of stories, I wasn't here at the time, about the problems that came about in the original development of Portola Hills. I think it's a wonderful community, but like a lot of things, you can have some growth pains. We had numerous conversations with staff to ensure that when this project is implemented, there are the appropriate conditions and controls in place to make sure that things get done. One of the issues was the public park, and some issues with the previous park not getting built in a timely fashion. That's why we agreed to advance design fees, and that the money will be flowing to the city, and then the money, it'll be your responsibility to build the park, because you will have it designed as well as have the money to build it, and the land. So I think we've learned from some of those, I'll call them mistakes of the past, and that's been covered in many ways in the conditions of approval and the requirements that this project has been imposed upon it.
Well, I think that what you have done is very admirable. It really raises some levels of confidence that you're going to keep your word. And I think in the future I'd like to see our city start having those fees come forward ahead of time, because in the past, not only our city but other cities throughout this county did get dinged, and the developers would say they ran out of money and you didn't get the things that was promised to us. So I'm glad that you took the high road and said, I'm going to give the money up front, because I wouldn't want to have to hunt you down.
Well, I appreciate that, and I do appreciate, because everything's a negotiation on these, and the staff being flexible. You really do need a project to be approved before any money can flow. So this is obviously a very important evening for us. And I'm sure I'll be getting an email tomorrow morning about what checks are due, depending on your decisions tonight.
Maybe waiting for you when you get home.
Yeah, I'm sure before that.
We got some payments to make. We have the grading completed at the sports park.
I understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time.
And thank you for your patience.
I just want to make a motion to accept the item in its entirety as presented.
We'll second that, but do we have to break that up at all? Can we do it as one motion?
No, that's just fine the way it was made.
All right, then, well, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. With that, brings us to discussion item.
I have a closing comment. I'm very pleased, but you know I must still be watching, okay?
Discussion items.
Agenda item 11, consideration of an ordinance prohibiting the feeding of wildlife in public places, submitted by city manager.
I actually,
May I?
well, I think Bob, our manager, has a statement to make on this. They're actually doing some research with staff, and so please, city manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. At Council's direction, we have advanced an ordinance written by the City Attorney that would prohibit the feeding of wildlife in public places throughout the community. This is done in primary response to the conditions and concerns that are there at Village Pond Park. And as Council is aware, the City identified the need to improve the park amenities quite some time ago, and so we've been engaged in a process that will, in fact, provide improvements to the facility that we believe in the long term will help mitigate some of the concerns related to the wildlife population itself. Concurrent with that action, however, we did prepare this ordinance, and we are, as staff, evaluating additional alternatives that, in our research and throughout the state, there are a number of communities that have dealt with similar issues. Palo Alto, for example, is one that's had an extensive problem. So we've been looking at practice and what has been occurring in some jurisdictions. As we identified in this report, we're not quite complete with that, but we believe we would be complete by the time the next meeting occurs. But we did set this up for the council to either introduce this ordinance this evening, but we also believe it makes really good sense to consider the entire issue as a whole in context. Consequently, we also believe that it is prudent, if the council so desires, to continue the introduction of this item this ordinance to your next meeting so you can put that in context. If that is your direction and desire, we would hold any additional presentations until that time, so you could do that. If you would care to move forward this evening, we're prepared to answer any questions that you might have.
Do you have something for us?
We have had one request to speak on this item.
All right.
Jim Gardner.
Yeah. Council?
I was just going to, in fact, as Mr. Dunick articulated beautifully, I was going to make a motion for us to consider this at a later time, given that more information is coming forth.
I have had a chance to go to both of the meetings regarding the Village Pond Park, and I know that this is an issue that's really important to the residents. I think at the same time, you want to make sure that it's done properly and that we don't do this piecemeal. So I would support that motion. I'll second that with the expectation that at the next meeting we do have this discussion, make sure that we have all the information together and we can make some decisions at that point.
Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Dwight and I and myself, we were at all the meetings, and but one of the things is that we said we would bring it to City Council immediately after our last meeting that we had, and that we would ask for the city audience. But it was also an agreement that the association was going to put it in their CC&Rs for their people to have for it to be enforced through them, because when we took the survey, yes, there's people from outside the association that is feeding the ducks there, the ducks and the geese, but also their own people are driving up and walking up feeding. So if they would they had stated that they would put it in their CC&Rs, and so when this comes back, could we have a report of if they have put it in their CC&Rs, because that was an agreement that they had made with us when we were over there. Thank you. Just giving some instruction to staff.
With that, I too will support tabling this for 2 weeks, or and allowing us to do the due diligence and researching what the other cities are doing. So I think that's unanimous.
Jim, I'm just giving instructions. You better save it all for next time. You can hit us real good then. Well, he said he would. You gave your word. The city has been Dwight and I, we gave our word that we would bring it here, and we're keeping our word, and I expect that your association keep their word and put it in their CC&Rs. That they can't feed the ducks. Or the geese. Especially the geese. Okay. Well, bring me some proof next time. Thank you.
Agenda item 12, consideration of policy prohibiting the use of electronic devices by members of city legislative bodies and advisory boards during public meetings, submitted by Deputy City Manager, Director of Management Services.
Do we have any public comments on it?
Jim Gardner would like to speak.
You should have just stayed up here.
Good evening once again.
Good evening.
Mayor, staff, council, my name is Jim Gardner. I live in Lake Forest, at Lake One, where the Village Pond Park is. And tonight on my way to the meeting, and Stephanie, the city clerk, who normally does a terrific job, I guess she screwed up tonight because I couldn't find my hitching post. You know, to tie up my horse? Then I came over here to fill out a comment, and I picked out my quill pen, and I looked for the inkwell. What did you do with the inkwells? I don't understand.
We hit them.
You get the point. This is 2013, folks. The Internet is not our enemy. Internet is our friend. I've sat at meetings of the Planning Commission and at meetings here where the use of the Internet has helped the decision makers find a better decision. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Don't you trust each other? Well, if you don't trust each other, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. We can get a staff member. I'm sure Dave would be happy to do this, and I'm sure he'd do it very well. Dave Belmas, deputy manager, city manager. You could ask him to go ahead and search something. You could put it up on a screen so it could be public, so you would not violate the Brown Act, and nobody has to worry. Personally, I trust you people, so I'm not worried that you're going to violate the Brown Act. But if you don't trust each other, by all means, there are ways to work around it and not violate the Brown Act. Let's not. This is Lake Forest. We don't believe in the Internet. Come on. So let's get seriously. So I hope that you do not ban the use of the Internet in public meetings.
Thank you. On that, for you and the public and for the Lake Forest community, this was something that we already, as a council, voted to approve the use of Internet and tablets as our dais. It will be saving hundreds of thousands or thousands of dollars every year to save the cutting down of the trees and staff time. So we as a council voted unanimously. A councilman voted or would like to have brought this back. That councilman no longer here. So I'd like to make the motion and call the vote, and I'm voting no on banning.
Oh, banning.
Yeah, this is a no vote.
I second that motion.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Okay. Number one, we were not against going to Internet, and I will still be against what I was against at that time. My city is asking us to pay for the iPad and the special software. We had two people on each end. One already has the iPad, and maybe this one do too. We have two that feels that we should pay out of our pocket for the iPad and for the software, and yet and still it should be used exclusively for city. For me, I'm on 27 different types of meetings that are directly or indirectly involved for the city, getting information, bringing it back, keeping our city at the tables so we can have a voice. And so if you're going to have it where exclusively, first of all, we do not get paid salaries here. Go on the Internet and then deduct the taxes, okay? I forgot my little thing because I came straight from the hospital, running from the hospital. And so if you look at it and you do the math, it would take two of those little stipend checks to buy one iPad and the software. Now, when I do that, that means I got to take that money that I use for gas for all these meetings I run to do it. Now, this one over here, he's no biggie. He's a millionaire. It ain't no problem for him. This one over here, he's a businessman. It ain't no problem for him. I am a retired senior citizen. My husband retired from the military. He was not an officer. We live on a budget. I already spend extra money to go to all the stuff and do all the stuff, and I drive a old 23-year-old car. I think it's 23. Anyway, it's so old I forgot how old it is. Now, it drinks a lot of gas, and with these prices, my budget is already impacted from serving. My husband and I both believe in service. He served 24 years in service. I cannot understand, and I do not believe it is the citizens of this city that has even an eighth of a brain would want me to take and spend my limited funds of this stipend, take 2 months of stipend, and then can't get to those meetings because that's a lot of gas, to take and buy an iPad and pay for some program that is going to take 2 months to pay for. Now, our original city manager, he believed in us having what we need, whatever models and whatever. You buy it, they furnish it, and they depreciate it. You worry about the person taking it when they leave, they pay the depreciated price at the end if they buy before it is depreciated out. I don't have a clue, and it don't make any sense to me that I should take and put that kind of money into something that I'm going to use just for this city. That don't make sense. We provide and we send our staff to training. The officers, their stuff have to be paid for. If it's a part of what I need to do this job should pay for it, because they don't pay me no real money, people. When they get through with my check, for 2 weeks, it's $300-something. The other 2 weeks is $200-something. Where do it go? In my gas tank to go run these errands. So now you want me to take some, and then it doesn't pay all the different ones that I go to for you. The rest of them, my husband pay. So now you want me to take some more money out of my household budget to buy an iPad. This city is not so that blasted broke. It cannot afford to pay for an iPad and this software. And when it goes that far, and people pin and pinch it, when this one don't have to worry about that price, and this one don't, and one guy that's running for Congress was sitting out here in the audience, and people are saying, how cheap is Lake Forest? And other electeds are teasing about it. That makes us look stupid, because that don't make sense to me. It does not make a lick of sense. I don't have a problem with using it just for the city, but I do have a problem with taking it out of my budget to use just for the city. So that's the real thing on it. It had nothing to do with the dinosaur age or not being wanting to be modern. It had to do with the not getting 1, 2, 3 votes for the city, which had already budgeted out and everything, and it would help our staff, and that's less staff time. The staff time and the paper that we wouldn't have to buy alone was worth the one-time investment of buying the iPads and the software. But we could not get 3 votes on it. That was the problem, Jim. And if I got to pay for it, it's still a no for me. So it's not Victorian age. It is financial. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Robinson.
The issue before us is just regarding the consideration of the policy to prohibit the use of electronic devices. So there's been a motion. I don't know if there was a second. I'll second that. And then if we want to have a later discussion about the purchase, since it's not an agendized item, I'm okay with doing that at a future time. We can revisit that. We can have that discussion, and I'd be happy to do that. And I do think that we need to look at all the costs involved. So I'm happy to do that at a later date. But you have my second.
Okay. I call a vote on this item number 12.
Sorry,
Yes.
just to clarify, the motion is to keep the old policy and to reject this proposal.
This proposal. So basically go back to that. But on that, in this prior city council report, we were spending, I think the number was actually $22,000 a year in clerical time and paper to put together these every other week. It is.
And the commissioner.
It is a huge task, and so the fact is we're moving in the right direction. I think that wireless will be great for the city, and I choose to support that. So I call the vote, and I vote no.
Correct. That's the motion, if I may, Mayor Voights, that's the motion I made, correct? We're going to take no action, basically.
Well, I wasn't sure. You can take no action, but if you wanted it for the record, then the motion would be to keep the old policy and reject the old policy.
That's
So if you'd like a vote on that.
Yes.
Restate your motion.
I'll restate my motion. We will keep the old policy.
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Nate.
Thank you.
Okay. And then on that, I think that I'd like to bring back on a future date on the council meeting the discussion on whether we as a city will purchase for the city council a tablet. And
I second that.
And the software.
And the software.
And I second that.
All right, so we just need consensus of 2 on that.
Just consensus on that.
Okay, great.
And so the vote on the motion is?
Unanimous.
Unanimous.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Moving right along.
Agenda item 13, consideration of application process for city council member appointment submitted by Deputy City Manager, Director of Management Services.
And we bring that back to the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This is another step in the process that the Council contemplates in order to fill the unexpired term. Okay, I think we're back. Okay. to fill the vacancy of the unexpired term of former councilmember Herzog. What you did at your last meeting was determine that you would, in fact, make an appointment to this vacancy and directed that we bring this item back to you this evening to include the potential of additional questions that the council may wish to add to the written application process that members of the community who are interested in applying would respond to assist in your process. We've received those questions from council members. They're in your packet this evening. It's clear that there is some duplication of those questions. Clearly, you probably don't need to ask the same question several times. So I think really what that points to is that rather than asking each and every one of these questions, it would be appropriate for the council to determine as a whole which ones that you would choose to put in to the written application process. With that, we'd be glad to respond to any questions that the council has, noting that the official time frame by which to apply for this position would start tomorrow. And of course, you can see the schedule that staff has identified as appropriate in our estimation for this to unfold. Once there is a certain number of candidates known, then we would come back to the council to seek further direction. So with that, Mr. Mayor, we'd be glad to respond to any questions that you have.
Do we have any public comment on this item?
Yes, Tim Morissette.
Boy, Tim, you've been waiting there patiently.
You know, I wasn't going to speak. I'm Tim Morissette. I live in Foothill Ranch, Lake Forest, resident of 19 years. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak here, first of all. I think it's great. What I want to talk about is a vacant seat here that we have tonight, and the one that you're going to be filling. I'm saddened that Peter Herzog is no longer a council member. I'm sure he had his reasons to leave. But from the short time that I've been coming to these meetings, they've been difficult and hostile, and I can see why he might have left. Again, I'm saddened by it, but I hope that when you elect or appoint your next council person, it's not somebody that is like you. I remember Mr. Nick saying when he was defending his choice for a planning commissioner that he wanted somebody that was like him and like thought. I would have nightmares to see five Mr. Nicks up here that are all identical. I want to see people who are diversified and can think on their own or experience and have the ability, not somebody that maybe we go to church with or we go mountain biking with, but somebody who actually is qualified. And so when you're picking this new person, please look at somebody who can make decisions that affect the city and have the ability to speak and comment on how this city should be grown, how the city should grow, as Catherine says. I can't imagine 5 Catherines up here, though. But anyways, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You may.
Thank you. What I said, and I stand behind that, had to do with the Planning Commission. This is not the Planning Commission. So if you take what I said out of context, you hear what you just heard. What I have said all along for the last 3 months or so is that Planning Commission members need to be an extension of the council. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, most people don't know this, perhaps. We're not even required to have a Planning Commission. We effectively have a Planning Commission because it is just too much work. So we essentially divvy up the work. We do some, they do some. As far as the qualifications, they just need to be a good judge of situations, an unbiased judge, and an independent mind looking at the before them. As far as expertise and expert opinions, that's why we have the staff. As I said before, at the risk of being redundant here, between the 10 individuals sitting to my right and to my left, we have about 300 years of institutional knowledge. That's where the knowledge comes from, not from us. We're just good judges, and we are to be a good conduit to express your concerns, the concerns and wishes of the people of Lake Forest to the staff. We're just a conduit. That's all we are. We are just good judges. Hopefully we are good judges, but we are judges. That's all we're supposed to be. Again, the Planning Commission is our extension because we cannot do all the work. We divvy up the work. We don't even have to have a Planning Commission. Laguna Hills for years didn't have a Planning Commission. They're thinking about it. Maybe they already have it, but as of a couple of years ago, they didn't even have one. This is different. Again, as I said before, this is a vacancy on the council, not on the Planning Commission. The council member needs to be directly an extension of the people of Lake Forest, and I said that before. Shy of a special election, which would cost $160,000 to $280,000, I guess the next best thing is to go through an exhaustive process to determine who is the best candidate, or maybe it's going back to the very election that elected the very council person who has resigned now. That is to be determined. What I'm trying to say at this very point in time is, I never said a council member needs to be an extension of me. A council member needs to be an extension of you, the people of Lake Forest, those who call Lake Forest home. And I go to my grave telling you this. Unlike what you heard before from a former council person who is not here any longer, the Planning Commission member is to be an extension of me. You had me selected, you elected me to do a job. That job I cannot do by myself, so I have somebody else to help me. Just like I have somebody else to help me on the Parks and Recs. God willing, when we have a traffic commission, they need to be an extension of me. Again, because that's my job, I'm gonna ask them to help me with it. You always want people who see things eye to eye with you when they're in a position to help you. If I'm going to have my own policies and then they're going to have their own policies, then it'll be chaos. If we had more than 24 hours in the day, I would do everything myself. I wouldn't even have a Planning Commission. That said, I've said more than I intended to. Thank you.
Seeing that the amount of questions that are proposed to be asked by our council members, and some are duplicate, is I think 17 questions. I'd make a motion that we narrow that down, so I'd like to have council input on that. It's just redundant, and if we're going to be doing an interview process too, depending on how many candidates come forth, I think that there should be a narrowing of the questions and possibly figuring out how we go about to interview or see that the best candidates are brought forth for our. So I'm interviewing, taking ideas.
Okay. I'm under the assumption that this was going to be on the questionnaire, not that we're going to ask all of this when they're in front of us, and we'd already have these answers. But seeing this with Nick, Robertson, and Mccullough are the ones that gave some suggestions of things that we wanted on there. Some of them can be consolidated. It just takes a little wordsmith because some of us are asking the same thing. And I will trust, for me, I can trust staff's ability of wordsmithing, combining. Some of these, there's two or three could be just one sentence, one line. It doesn't need to all be jumbled up like this because some is saying the same thing. Like it may have been worded a different way, but it's still asking the exact same thing. So staff could put these together, and if they're not sure, they can give a call and say, does this fold yours in well enough for you, and then or take more out. But I don't see it being 17 things, but they're going to answer this. This is not things they're going to stand up there and we ask. They can answer this on their applications, and we can sit down and read the application and get the answers, and should be able to ask less when they come before us.
On that, the applications already describe your background qualifications.
Yeah.
You see attached resume.
Yep.
Please describe any community involvement or participation on boards, committees, and commissions. And what are your feelings about the important issues facing Lake Forest? Some of these issues are same things that we redundantly put down in our questions that are before us as questions that we would like to ask. And so I think that we're very redundant.
Okay. But Mayor, in all due respect, like right here, I stated this, and although Nick remembered it, and he put in here about the chronometer, okay, this is something in other languages, in here, other places, it's very important. Because if somebody is voting for somebody, and it's a brother, sisters, or favors, or something like that, that is important. And they standing up here, I want it in writing that they said, no, I don't. And then, it's like when you go and fill out a job application, you say you have this and that experience, and then it shows up you don't have it, or this or that education, you don't have it. You can be discharged. See, and my thing is that we have had some situations here that this has been an issue, and I feel that in fashioning these in this manner and getting it where they put this in writing, then guess what? I believe less people will be standing up here saying things that is not accurate, that we find out later is not accurate, and it would make as my person to the left says all the time, transparent, because it's right there. We don't have enough time to ask all this stuff when they're standing up here. You want us to ask one or two things. I can't discern something that we are actually taking the citizens' vote, making their vote for them. And we need this information. If they do not understand what you've heard, that there's been a problem with parties coming in, the political parties. If they don't understand what nonpartisan is, then they're going to get in here and start doing party stuff. So I want to know, do they understand that? There's a lot of things that I need to know before I'm going to place somebody in an empty seat. Empty seat is, otherwise let's go to vote, which is going to cost $100,000. I believe that staff can arrange these. They can wordsmith it. Our staff is good. And where these can be folded in, because we're not going to have enough time to ask the people all the things we want. Or either you're going to give us unlimited time when they're in front of us, and you don't know how many people you're going to have. So you're going to give us unlimited time. Because I'm quite sure the things that Nick asked, I know at least half of them. He got 4. I know there's at least 2 that he's passionate about. The things that Robinson asked, he's got 4. I'm quite sure there's at least 2. But there may be 4. But if we have it down where they answer that, then we don't have to spend all that time when they marching through here. That's what I'm saying.
So, your motion is to
let staff work.
Consolidate, because a lot of these questions are redundant. So, council.
That can take away the redundancy.
Let's take the redundancy out of it.
Yeah.
Narrow it down.
As long as we still, and then each one of us can say, oh yeah, you folded it in. Thank you. You smashed that together, folded it in. I don't have a problem with that.
How big of an application are we probably looking at with respect to all of this?
You should be able to get this in one page. Let's look at here. I'm looking at 2 or 3.
The application itself consists of just 2 pages. However, it requires them to submit a detailed resume and then a candidate statement.
The 700 form.
A 700 form. And then responses to these questions. Some of them could be listed in a yes or no questionnaire type format. Mm-hmm. Some will require space for people to, complete an answer. So we could be looking at up to 10 pages.
In all due respect, remember when we do block grant money? How big is that? And we have several apply for block grant. And I think this is just or more serious than a block grant application where we're giving out money. We're giving out the people's trust, the people's vote. We're giving out the city. So, this is something that's very, very important. Now, I don't want to blow this off some kind of way. This is information, or either you don't want to do it, that's
we're not
fine.
talking
Give me
about Lawrence.
permission to ask all my stuff that I want to ask then, for each person.
We're
If
not,
it's
we're not
20
saying that, but we have to narrow it down, so.
I don't have a problem with that.
We got a consensus allowing staff to consolidate?
Yes, sir.
Do the yes or no's, and then let them answer that.
Well, you don't need me for
Many-
consensus, so.
Many of these can be done in the yes and no's, but you got about 4 you're going to need them to, that I see after they're consolidated, you probably need
All right, well, we get consensus on that, so we'll move forward with that.
willy-nilly it. Mayor Ford. Can't make everybody happy.
Mayor, just a confirmation on the schedule.
We just want to confirm that you want all of the questions, with the exception of duplicates. They will be consolidated and only appear one time. When there are questions that are duplicates, they'll only appear one time on the application, but you want all of the other, make sure that each question is addressed, and then confirmation that the application will be available tomorrow, and that it will be open for 2 weeks.
And when possible, we'd like to have that as a yes or no.
Correct.
I mean, then narrow it down and summarize it as best possible, because obviously we're asking for a detailed resume. We've already got a list of questions already on the applicant's application, and so and then we're asking for a 700 form to go over financials. So I think that and then along with our the 700 is yeah, it's a requirement. Yeah. So,
Mayor Voigt?
Thank you.
If I may ask you a quick question, sir. What do you all three think of shortening the 2-week period to a 1-week period so that we would have more time to do actual interviews? We're running out of time here.
After all of this, I think I want to make sure that if people are going to have to answer all these questions, that they have time to actually think about them and answer them properly and give some thought to it. So I don't want to shorten that period. I think that really, some may be already working on applications, for all I know, but throwing some questions at them they might not have expected, I want to make sure they have plenty of time to do that. And with respect to that, I think 3 out of my 4 questions are actually duplications. I'll withdraw the 4th one, and if I deem necessary, I'll ask that at the time we do the interview process, just so that I can shorten it a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we had consent on that, and mind you, that this nomination process for this potential candidate for the seat of Lake Forest City Council is a huge responsibility for us to choose someone that can replace us or fill that seat. Next November that seat will be up for re-election. So the fact is, if we don't come together in agreement on somebody by the December 12th deadline for us to appoint, we're spending upwards of $190,000 for an election that will be held in April, and then they will have to run again in November. So it's a placeholder seat. So the fact is, whoever we select will be coming before the voters again in November. So I know it's a huge responsibility, and as fiscal stewards here, I think that we all take it very seriously to find somebody, and we will all might have to compromise a little bit, but the fact that I think that finding someone that can fill that seat for those 9 months is a huge task for us, because the fact is it's important to us as fiscal stewards for the city to be responsible to that $190,000 that we potentially could spend as a city. So thank you.
I'd like to clarify one thing, not to correct you, but the person who applies for this and gets selected does not have to run next November. So, if there are some of you that just want to serve for a brief period of time, because maybe you don't want to commit to a long period, you have that option as well. So I just want to make sure that that's clear and people don't feel that they have to do that.
Thank you for that point of information.
Yeah.
Yes, Madam.
I'd like to just do a little quickie. It may seem that it's being a little extensive for paperwork and questions and things, but, you know, you got to realize something. When you fall to run an election, there is tons of paperwork to fill out. Even when you go to the bank, they changed how you open up an account now, and there's extra stuff you got to fill out there too. And if it is so overcoming to you that you cannot fill out the paperwork, I don't care how many pages it is, because when you're running, there's a lot of stuff you have to fill out. You have to make an appointment to sit down with the city clerk, each individual, and fill out, sign this, and then you still got to run out and get signatures. All that. There's a lot of stuff you have to do. So if this is that incumbent where they can't do it, then maybe they're not the one to come up here, because this is only the beginning of the tons of paperwork you're going to have to read, fill out, talk about, and answer things. And when you're in the grocery store or sitting at a restaurant and citizens come up and ask you things. So if that is the case, they have already filtered their stuff out. So that saved us a lot of time. So, you know, this is serious business, people. And I'm having some serious problem when people are concerned on how much paperwork or what you're going to ask the person. I wasn't prepared for anything they asked me my first, second, third, fourth, or fifth time I ran. You prepare yourself on a daily basis. You're learning and evolving regularly. But you have to, if you go to get a job, you got to fill out paper, and you got to go take a drug test. Whoever thought you were going to have to take a drug test to get a job? But you do. There's a lot of things you have to do to get a job. And this is a job that you are responsible to 78,000 people. So let's get it right. I don't have a problem with it.
Thank you.
And if you need me to work with you on any of mine, I can work with it. I can just give me a call. I'm willing to shave off or whatever. But I also am asking that if, when we do this, we don't limit ourselves to one person when they're coming up here. If we have to drop something off, if he wants to drop one thing off, then he should be able to ask that and whatever else he wants when we're doing the face-to-face interview.
Moving right along.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make just one last comment. We're having this schedule start tomorrow. Just to make it clear, it's going to be difficult to have the entire questionnaire and the available at 8 a.m. So if people would bear with us, we will have it released tomorrow, but not first thing. So just the council's aware of that. But we'll have it out by the end of the day and available on our internet website as well as here in person.
Doesn't our city clerk, Mrs. Smith, work the night shift? Thank you. Moving right along. Thank you.
He was just saying that for Jim's benefit.
Agenda item 14, request for appointment, League of California Cities, Association of California Cities, Orange County, and/or the Orange County City Selection Committee, submitted by City Clerk. And there are several appointment opportunities in your agenda packet in this week. And I wanted to point out that anyone that is interested in the city selection appointments, the deadline for submitting your notice is Thursday, the 7th.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything that I'm up for, I'll be reapplying.
Okay.
I don't remember what it is.
And with that brings us to City Manager's report.
I have nothing further to say, Mr. Mayor.
Council, starting with Councilman Robinson.
I'll try to keep this as brief as I can. One of the things that I personally don't like about government, and one of the reasons why I ran, was I think sometimes we do things, and then the reason why we did that becomes unnecessary, yet we continue to do it. And so we'll waste staff time. This happens in D.C., it happens in Sacramento, Santa Ana, it happens here. With that said, a long time ago, I don't know how many years, but I guess at least, I'd say at least a decade, maybe two, we started, we had a presentation with this at the beginning of the meeting, which was a report by Investment Oversight Reviewer. And it's a quarterly report that we have. Maybe staff could tell me how much money we spend on that.
$7,500 a year.
Okay. Now, you'll notice that I think every meeting that I've been at so far where we've had this quarterly report, a very nice woman has come to the mic. She's given us that report. She's told us that the city is doing a great job when it comes to our investments, and there really are no questions from any of us. We see the report. That's about it. I'd like to get consensus to put this on a future agenda where we look at whether we need it so frequently. I definitely still want to have it, but do we need to have it so frequently? Can we cut some of the costs there, and can we do it maybe semi-annually, maybe annually? Just a discussion. So I'd like to ask for consensus.
I second that.
Yeah, you got consensus on that.
Thank you very much. Second thing was in the minutes, there was, at a previous meeting, there was some discussion about our street sweeping. I believe even Mr. Holtzclaw came to the mic to talk about street sweeping and how he'd like to have different types of citations or something to that effect. That's something that maybe we can discuss at another time, but with respect to street sweeping, it was brought up that we should bring back that contract yet again, and I was supportive at the time. Staff has provided a pretty significant amount of information with respect to street sweeping and how that initial contract was approved, and so I'd like to ask consensus that we table that and we just approve the street sweeping contract as it was presented a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if we can do that, Mr. City Attorney. Or
you just asked to have the original proposal brought forward, the extension on the.
Second that.
So I'd ask for that just so that we can take that vote. Staff provided a great report. It's very detailed. I really appreciate that. The second thing, or another thing, is another one of these quarterly reports that we have is the status of compliance with our stormwater permits. Again, it's one of those quarterly reports that we started in 2002. Somebody comes to the mic. They give us, occasionally, this time I think we just had a report itself, and I expect that we're spending some money on that as well. I would ask that actually we I ask for consensus that we put this on the agenda as well for a future meeting where we talk about whether that's necessary to have it, any type of presentation or report. Definitely quarterly. I'd like to move it to annually. That's my request there, so I'd like consensus just to put that on there.
I second that as well.
I know I'm throwing out a lot of stuff right now, so I'm not asking for specific dates, but just something that we can address, hopefully before the next time the quarterly reports come up. Then we also we had an agenda item today in the consent calendar regarding the slurry seal project. I just ask that maybe Public Works could provide us an update on the Cheyenne Way up in Foothill Ranch, and just in our weekly packets. It doesn't have to be this Thursday, it could be next Thursday, but just get an update on that. We did have quite a few residents that came to talk to us about that at the mic, and it's been a few weeks, so I think an update would be justified. Last thing, it's very brief, so if any of you have an objection, I'd be fine with keeping it, but this last agenda item that we just looked at, request for appointments for League of Cities or ACCOC or whatever, I'd prefer to pull that off because I think that we're all getting emails now. We're finding out about all these things, and I think it's just that unnecessary agenda item that kind of clutters up the agenda. So this is all more housekeeping than anything else, but like I said, it's one of my frustrations about government that you start something, then you keep doing it, and then you ask yourself why you started it in the first place. And there was a good reason a decade ago, but there might not be any longer. And I see the red lights on, so I just ask consensus, and even if just one of you...
And I happily second that, too.
So, I think, Kathy, does that sound good to you, that we pull that? Or if you have any opposition, keeping it, but...
You're pulling it for what reason? Say
just
a couple sheets of paper?
A couple of sheets of paper, and it's just a discussion that we have at the end of each meeting, and I think we're already all finding out about this. I think...
As long as we're noted.
Yeah.
Originally, we were, I don't know if it was the legality of it, but we would have to notify this, but we were asked to notify the council if we were going to be participating in something. Because
If I can, let's have this is a bring back, so if it's okay, not to have you debate it. But yeah, if there's something that would require the nomination of your colleagues, then we'd talk about treating that differently. So we'll bring that back in the discussion.
That's one of the reasons. And also with the water thing, we'll discuss that because, we were mandated on the water thing.
Sure.
So we got to make sure we're legal. Some of these things have to be reported.
Absolutely.
In fashion, and it comes from higher sources, and we're just keeping it legal.
Understood. And I want to make sure that if a higher body requires us to do it, great. If it's something that we've put on ourselves and we can't remember why, that we at least consider pulling it away. So that's it. I know it was a lot, but I appreciate your indulgence. I usually try to keep my comments to 5 seconds or less. So.
You always gave us some extra time, so you're just making that up.
Councilman Adam Nick.
Yes, thank you. There are two matters that I would like to agendize. First, a few months ago, I finally successfully brought the Sunshine Ordinance onto the agenda. It would have made our government even more transparent than it is today. One thing that it would have done, it would have required council members and planning commission members planning commission members to disclose any relation, financial or otherwise, that they may have with the person who sits here on the dais. And as much as I thought, and I do think that's a good public policy for us to be forced to disclose any relation with anybody who's before us, so that everybody knows the underlying premise. As much as I thought it was valuable, Mr. Herzog moved to defeat me there, and I was defeated, in fact, 4-1, although he made the motion, but I was defeated 4-1. At this point, several months have gone by, and I see the opportunity to again agendize the Sunshine Ordinance. It'll bring additional transparency. We have brought a great deal of transparency over the last 10 months, no doubt about it, but I think this would provide yet additional, more transparency. Again, including, among many things, including us having to disclose. We would be legally required to disclose to you, to the people, right here, on the record, if and when we have had any dealing, any relationship with any candidate or any individual who's before us, among many other things that it provides. Because I believe, as I have said time and time again, not necessarily from the dais, but I have said time and time again, the most important thing to preservation of democracy is a well-informed electorate. And I came here to make sure that my people it's back. Thank you. One of the reasons I came here was to make sure that I give the people of Lake Forest, the people who have been my family for 30 plus years, the best that any government can give to its people. I intend to do that. Can I have somebody to support me on agendizing the Sunshine Ordinance so we can hopefully take it the whole, or at least in part?
I'll agendize. I'll give you sense, but the fact is, we've already filled out a 460, a 700, so financial, anything that. So we are actually already required by the state, but we'll go through it again and lay it out, and that we already do many of the things there. So we'll discuss it again.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And the second thing is, I would like the council to re-agendize. That's the operative word. To re-agendize the closed session discussion from the August 20th City Council relating to Baker property owned by the Baker Ranch Association, Baker Ranch Associates. I would like the item to be re-agendized for us to discuss it again. I'm looking for a council member to support me on this.
You got to repeat that question for agendize.
I would like the council to re-agendize the closed session discussion from the August 20th City Council meeting relating to Baker property, which is owned by the Baker Ranch Associates. I need somebody to second me so we can put it on the agenda.
We never had that.
Mayor,
We never, that was...
the August 20th agenda had a closed session to discuss a proposed development agreement and transactions related to that with regard to the Baker property that's between Rancho Parkway and the 241 toll road. So that was, I think that's what Mr.
Yes,
is
sir.
referring
That's
to.
what
is
I'm referring to.
Reconsidering
Put it
that.
back on closed session.
Right, yeah. Yeah, pick up where you left off with those discussions.
My preference would be that we wait until there are 5 of us before we have any discussions that, with respect to any new developments of any kind or anything like that.
Okay,
So
can I ask that it would be agendized in January? Can we decide on that now? Let's put in January, there will be 5 of us. So why can't we just agendize it for January? Can I?
Hold on. We don't know that for a fact. We could not come, there's only 4 of us now. We could not come to a decision in time. We could have a 2-1-1 vote, and then it would have to go to vote. So we're assuming that it will be 5 of us in January.
Okay, then
So we can always agendize it after we have our choices on voting for, if we have an appointed person. So after you get the appointed person that same night, you can agendize it. But speculating for January, we may wind up going to vote.
What if we agendize it for January, and then we can always put it off if need be to April? Why don't we just at least this way we're giving the city manager and the city attorney 2 months in which they can prepare for this. There's no harm there.
Okay, I can support. How about we word that in the month preceding a new council member, so that we don't pick a day.
Yeah.
Just in case, as Catherine said, we don't actually appoint.
That would work.
Say that one more time, Councilman Roberts.
In the event
that the month after a new council member is installed. Okay. So whenever that date might be.
Okay, great. So I have consensus, Mr. Smith, if I could beg of you. The month after we have a 5-member body, we will discuss the Baker Ranch property.
I think we got that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, sir. And thank you.
And the reason he did that is because in the event we don't appoint, there'll be an election.
Yes, sir. Yes, I realize that. Thank you, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Excuse me. I'm doing my AB 1234. I attended Southern California Association of Government, also the RENA committee. We need to really get involved. Whatever staff is working with that, I got to give them some updates on that. OCOC, they're having some important votes coming up. I will be at the next meeting. I always let them know. El Toro High School, the mayor and I was there at the ribbon cut. I didn't see you, Dwight. Was you there?
Marriage conference.
Oh, okay. The mayor and I both attended the ribbon cutting there. The TIPS Heroes of Up with a Heart, that's trauma intervention. Nick and I was there, and one of our commissioners was married since the last time we had, and had a wonderful, most interesting wedding I've ever had. I've performed a lot of weddings, and I've attended a lot of weddings. This was the best wedding I have been to beside my own. It was wonderful. They had some of everything there, a couple of staff and some developers, and I was very honored to be there. It was on one of the boats down in Newport Beach, yachts in Newport Beach, and it was really fabulous. It was very, very nice. I have a couple of things that I would like to get a consensus on. We got some streets that are literally cracking, and and got some potholes in, and I can give the list to the staff of which ones, and I'd like for us to look at and see if we can patch those up. But the one I'm giving you right now is Los Alisos, this half that is on our side. Just before you get to the bridge, our side is cracking all up by the water district and the electric. I would like to put on the agenda the widening of the 5 freeway from Avery. I think it's from Avery up to El Toro Road. And in the meantime, it has been said that it would not affect us, and that's not true. So I'd like for you to put it on our agenda as soon as possible, because it will affect us. And I brought it to us once before that they were talking about widening it up to 2 lanes, and they already have a lot of damage on the properties there. In my track, the track is dying, it's cracking apart, and the wall is falling. And that is something our city should be involved in. They're saying it's not going to affect us. It will. It will also affect us as far as our mobility of getting in and out. And in the process, they're talking about taking down the sound wall that it took me 9.5 years to get up, and taking it down in panels and then replacing it. I don't know what they're telling our staff, but when I go out here to different things, to OTCA and regional councils and stuff, that's not what our staff is getting. It's not what's being said there. So we need to put this on the agenda so we can have it where we can take and give some instructions to our staff about it, because it's beginning to really get in my claw. Because the thing is, another job that we're here to do is protect our citizens, and we have a tract of home that has already been heavily impacted by the county widening, making a freeway to begin with, turning the 101 into a freeway and continue taking our property. Now, somebody's got to look at the fact that tract of homes is cracking apart. The homes are cracking, the street is cracking, the hill is cracking and eroding, and now they're going to do some more banging there to widen that freeway. There's no way it's not going to affect our city. If you remember, some months back, I went to a meeting that the mayor and the manager of Mission Viejo did not even know that they were having a meeting in their city, because it affects them. It affects them to the good side. And they had another one in Laguna Hills. We had not been invited to it, but someone happened to see it in the paper, and I attended. The man said a lot of things that he had to eat his words and say that, oh, he didn't say it. Well, some of you may know that I'm good at digging. I probably should have been a detective. And when I say it is something, I'm always willing to ask and learn, and if I'm mistaken, I'm willing to apologize. But I don't think that it's just smoke out there when I keep hearing it. If I hear it once, it may be some smoke. I dig deeper. If I hear it again, it may be smoke. But we have a tract of homes in our home, I call it a home because the city is a home, that is in danger of being impacted again, and possibly could lose some homes. And also, it costs us money to keep repairing them streets. And if the county, Caltrans, and all the rest want to do it, fine. Buy it out, pay for it, and fix it. It should not come out of our pockets, and none of our citizens' homes should be threatened. So I want it on the agenda so we can get some facts, because by this time, we almost be too late, because things are moving along and it's supposedly not going to impact us. Okay? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Can I make a friendly amendment to that request, put OCTA? Could we maybe have a representative from OCTA just come and brief us on?
Mr. Members of the Council, I was going to ask for clarification as to what the Council's intent was.
I think that's
you would need consensus in this instance. You need at least one other Council
We need
member
consensus to put it on
the agenda.
On the agenda.
And then what is it that the Council chooses to have on the agenda? Whether you want OCTA to come and provide a presentation, or you're asking for the staff to analyze and write something on that report, or just have something that says talk about it.
No. I want to rein this in and kind of.
That's not what I'm asking.
That's why I want to clarify.
It's not just OTCA. There's no highways going to be touched without Caltrans being involved, as you know. I'm only putting it on the agenda because I don't have the right to give you instructions without it being on the agenda, unless we've changed it. After it's on the agenda, then we can give you direction. That's what you said. Now, if I can give you the direction, I'll give it to you now. But it's not just OTCA, because Caltrans is involved. And at the regional council, they're discussing it differently from the information we have. When I went
so if I understand, then the point that you're making, Mayor Pro Tem Mccullough, is simply to put on the agenda a placeholder item that says you want to talk about or not you want OCTA and Caltrans to come.
Yes.
You're not expecting anything beyond.
So we can decide. That's it. I'm not giving you any extra work at this
time.
Okay,
that's why I wanted to clarify what is your intent was to agendize whether or not you want them to come to a future meeting.
Well, you want can we legally do that and make a request to have a representative of OCTA?
The people that's involved.
Yeah, when you're talking about what a future item, sure,
Yeah.
what the scope of that is.
Okay. So you want to scope it now?
Yeah, I think
okay.
that's...
If you want to scope it, then I want to make sure that you scope it where the people that are directly involved, not just anybody from OTCA and not just anybody from Caltrans, the ones that are involved in the project, that is the manager, the one that's doing the plan or who's making a decision. We want the key people that are involved. That's the scope that I would tell. I have somebody at my senior citizen housing committee from OTCA sits on that board on my advisory council meeting that I chair. And that lady, she would not, even though she's a very sharp lady for what we need for that, she would know that. So if you just ask them to send somebody, even Caltrans, you got to have the people that's involved with that project. Because when I reported it to you before, the guy that stood there and made those statements, he turned around and lied and said he didn't make them, but I had proof that he did. So then they shifted and said it's not going to affect our city. See, so how we can get it where we get the people that's involved, that's who I want here. Now, if you want to, the reason I was just putting it as a placeholder and give instructions, because you may want to talk to, if staff want to talk to them and find out what's going on, or if you want to bring it here. But I want it out that it's not what they're saying. On the regional level, it's not. And even on TV, they had a flash, and I couldn't record it fast enough when they were talking about that project. But that's not what they told you or Belmer when y'all checked on it, or Tom.
Do we need to re-clarify that?
So somebody's lying. Follow the money, and you're going to find the trail.
I'm leaving that up to you, qualified staff members.
How you want it done? Tell me what you want, and I'm willing to do it.
To consolidate that.
I think we got the thrust of what the Mayor Pro Tem was asking.
Yeah.
We will endeavor to research that out and have it on a council agenda at a time when we can get all of that sorted, and then looking at what you'd be doing any one particular night, because it may take some time. So in terms of that presentation, so we'll agendize it as soon as it would make good sense and get that as clearly as quickly as we could.
Thank you.
With the right people.
I think so. Yes.
I guess somebody worked there. I want the people.
Well, this week, 2 weeks ago, I too was at the El Toro Stadium dedication for the athletic fields. It was sad that they lost their opening game for this new stadium, but it was a good game, and we had a business appreciation luncheon this last week, where we had, what was the total amount of people that we had? Well over 100, with many of our top corporations and businesses at our luncheon. We have had a very successful year as a city of Lake Forest, and I affectionately call us the gateway to South Orange County, because we really are where the 5 and 405 merge together. So it's a great place to do business, and because of that, we had over 180 new businesses open up in our city in the last year. So we are actually in a great position for the future. So I see nothing but positive. So I have nothing further. Thank you guys. Happy holidays to all of you.
I have one thing. Happy holidays. For all of you that has been praying for my husband and my daughter, thank you. Please continue to pray. They're not out the woods yet. They both are still critical. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.